don't have a focus problem. That's the first lie you need to drop. Because if distraction was really the issue, you would fail everywhere. But you don't. There are moments, rare but real, where you sit down and suddenly everything clicks. No resistance, no overthinking, no urge to check your phone. You just do the work. So what changed? It wasn't motivation, it wasn't discipline, and it definitely wasn't willpower. Because if it were, you'd be able to repeat it on command. But you can't. Instead, most days feel different. You open your laptop, and within seconds, your brain starts negotiating. Let's check one notification. Let's just scroll for a minute. Let's start later. And before you realize it, you've lost another hour. Here's what nobody tells you. Distraction isn't something you fight, as it's something your environment quietly decides for you. And in Japan, there's a simple technique built on this idea, a way to eliminate distraction without forcing yourself to focus at all. Not by trying harder, but by making distraction impossible. You probably think your biggest problem is inconsistency. Some days, everything just flows. You sit down, start working, and before you know it, hours pass. No resistance, no distractions, just progress. And on those days, you feel like, this is who I'm supposed to be. But then, the next day is completely different. You open your laptop, you look at the same task, and suddenly it feels heavier than it should. Not impossible, just harder than it needs to be. So you stall. You check one notification, reply to a message, open another tab real quick. 5 minutes turns into 20. 20 turns into an hour. And now there's this quiet pressure building in the background. You know what you should be doing. You can literally see it. But instead, you keep circling around it without touching it. That's the frustrating part. It's not confusion. It's not lack of clarity. You know exactly what matters. You know the task that would actually move your life forward. And yet, it stays untouched. So your brain tries to explain it. Maybe I'm just lazy. Maybe I need more discipline. Maybe I'm not as focused as I thought. But here's what makes it worse. You're not doing nothing. You're busy all day. Emails, messages, small tasks, random research, things that feel productive in the moment, but leave you exactly where you started. It's like running on a treadmill, a lot of movement, zero distance. And slowly, something deeper starts to happen. You begin to question yourself because there's a gap now between who you believe you are and how you're actually showing up. You see yourself as capable, focused, driven, but your actions don't reflect that. So the real question becomes, which one is the truth? And that's where most people get stuck because they assume the problem is internal, that something is wrong with them. But what if that's not it? What if the issue isn't your discipline, but the way you've been trying to use it? What if the system you're relying on to focus is the exact thing keeping you distracted? Because once you see that, everything starts to shift. Your brain isn't designed to focus. That sounds wrong at first. But think about it. Your brain is designed to detect change, movement, sound, novelty, anything new. Yeah, because for most of human history, that's what kept you alive. A rustle in the bushes, that could be danger. A sudden sound, that could be a threat. Something new in your environment, that could be an opportunity. The person who noticed these things survive. The person who stayed locked in on one task and ignored everything else didn't. So your brain adapted. It became incredibly good at scanning, switching, and reacting. And that wiring never changed, but your environment did. Now, instead of one or two important signals, you're surrounded by hundreds. Your phone lights up, a notification pops, a new video appears, another message comes in. Each one whispers the same thing. Look here, this matters. And your brain listens, not because you're weak, not because you lack discipline, but because it's doing exactly what it was built to do. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Every time you switch tasks, even for a second, your brain rewards you. A tiny hit of dopamine, not when you finish something, but when you start something new. That's why opening a new tab feels good. That's why checking your phone feels satisfying. It's not the content, it's the switch. So when you sit down to focus, your brain is running a silent comparison. On one side, a task that's slow, effortful, and uncertain. No immediate reward, no instant feedback. On the other, dozens of quick, easy, rewarding distractions. Instant stimulation, instant payoff. Which one do you think your brain chooses? It's not even close. And this is why willpower feels so exhausting. Why? It's because you're not just trying to focus, you're trying to override a system that's working perfectly. You're fighting biology with effort, and effort always loses in the long run. So the real problem isn't that you can't control your mind, it's that you've been trying to control the wrong thing. You've been trying to force focus in an environment designed for distraction. And once you see that, a completely different solution starts to emerge because maybe the goal isn't to become more disciplined. Maybe the goal is to make focus the easiest option available. Most people believe focus is a skill, something you build with discipline, something you strengthen the same way you build muscle through effort, repetition, pushing harder. And for a while, that idea feels true. You sit down, force yourself to work, that resist distractions, and you get through it. So you think, this is it, I just need more discipline. But then something strange happens. The next day, in a different setting, that same discipline disappears. You're in a different room, your phone is closer, your tabs are opened, and suddenly the focus you had yesterday feels inaccessible. So now you're confused. Because if focus is a skill, why does it feel so inconsistent? Why can you be completely locked in one moment and completely scattered the next? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Focus isn't just a skill, it's a response to your environment. Think about it like this. Imagine trying to eat healthy while sitting in a room full of junk food. You can rely on willpower. You can try to resist, but eventually you'll give in. Not because you're weak, but because the environment is stacked against you. Focus works the same way. When you place your phone next to you while working, you're not testing discipline. You're increasing the number of decisions your brain has to fight. Every notification, every vibration, every visible app. They're not neutral, they're invitations. And your brain isn't designed to ignore invitations. It's designed to explore them. That's why you don't just lose focus. You get pulled away from it. And here's where the shift happens. The real question isn't, how do I become more focused? It's, how do I remove the option to not focus? Because as long as distraction is available, your brain will consider it. This is the mistake most people keep making. They try to become stronger instead of making distraction weaker. They rely on willpower, something that changes with mood, energy, and time of day, but structure doesn't care how you feel. Structure doesn't fluctuate. When the environment is designed correctly, focus stops being a struggle and starts becoming the default. And once you experience that shift, even once, you realize something powerful. You were never bad at focusing. You were just playing the game on hard mode. Now the question becomes, what happens when you finally change the rules? In Japan, there's a simple principle that shows up everywhere. Work, study, even daily routines. Control the environment, control the outcome. Not your motivation, not your mood, not your willpower, your environment. Yeah, because they understand something most people miss. You don't rise to the level of your discipline, you fall to the level of your system. So instead of trying to force themselves to focus, they design situations where focus happens automatically. And the method is surprisingly simple. Remove, reduce, restrict. Let's break that down. First, remove. Not silence distractions, not ignore them. Remove them. There's a difference. Because when your phone is on the table, even face down, a part of your brain is still aware of it, still waiting, still listening. So instead, you move it out of reach. Better yet, out of the room. Notifications off, tabs closed. Anything that doesn't serve the task, gone. And here's the key. You do this before you begin, not after you get distracted. Second, reduce. Most people sit down with a vague intention. I'll work on this. But your brain doesn't act on vague. It hesitates, it delays, it negotiates. So instead, you remove the choice. You define one clear action, not study, but read page 1, not work on project, but write the first paragraph. Now there's no thinking, just starting. Third, restrict. This is where it gets powerful. You don't just remove distractions, you make them harder to reach than the work itself. You log out of apps, you move your phone away, you create small barriers, not to punish yourself, but to guide your behavior. Yeah, because your brain always takes the easiest path. So if distraction is one tap away and work requires effort, you already know what happens. But flip that, now work is the easiest option. And something interesting happens. You stop relying on willpower. You stop negotiating with yourself. You just follow the path that's already been set. And that's the shift. This isn't about forcing focus. It's about removing the need to force anything at all. Because when distraction becomes inconvenient, focus stops being a struggle and starts becoming inevitable. Now, here's where this becomes real. Because at this point, it's easy to think, okay, this sounds good, but how do I actually do it? And the answer is simpler than you expect. You don't need a perfect routine. You don't need to overhaul your entire life. You just need one controlled environment. That's it. One place where when you sit down, you work. Start small. Choose one task, not 10, not 5, one. Choose one space, a desk, a corner, even a specific chair, and choose one time, a fixed window where this happens daily. Now, before you begin, you prepare. This part matters more than people think. You open the file, you clear your desk, you remove your phone, not after you get distracted, before, because preparation is what removes friction. And then you lower the barrier. You don't say, I'm going to work for 2 hours. You say, I'll just do 5 minutes. And be honest, 5 minutes doesn't scare you. There's no pressure, no resistance. But something interesting happens when you start. Those 5 minutes turn into 10, then 20, because starting is the hardest part. Now, once you cross that line, momentum takes over. And this is where most people miss the real magic. It's not about one perfect session, it's about repetition. Same place, same setup, same structure, day after day. At first, your brain will resist. It'll try to negotiate, delay, distract, but over time, something shifts. Your brain starts recognizing the pattern. This place means work. This setup means action. And suddenly, you don't have to convince yourself anymore. You just begin. Focus becomes automatic. Not because you became more disciplined, but because you remove the need to be. And that's the identity shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who struggles to focus and start seeing yourself as someone who simply shows up and does the work. No internal debate, no overthinking, just action. Because in the end, it's the people who stay consistent aren't the ones who win the battle against distraction every day. They're the ones who stopped fighting and designed a system where they don't have to. Most people keep waiting, waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel motivated, but you don't need that anymore.